Hello, everyone, on this webinar. And my name is Baiming Liu. I'm the founder for the Global Chinese Health. And today I'm very honored to be able to invite Daniel from America in Maryland area. And he is the person who struck me as a very innovative healer. Okay? So in the area that everybody actually needs, but everybody probably very embarrassed to consult. But it's very critical area, I think. So because of the specialties, and I can see his passion about this field to help people who can have a better life, for couples and for many people actually, married or not married, in future or in the current, whatever you name it. So I would love to take this opportunity within the next 30 minutes-ish, and I would love to ask Daniel to tell us about how he get into this field and what kind of people he can help with, and tell us why it's important. All right. So Daniel, here is your floor.
Container to explore these topics with. Oh, looks like my video went out. Let me fix that. It says the host has stopped the video.
Really? I'm sorry.
My video. Okay.
Oh, let's go back.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So now that you can see me again. So, so how did I get into this? So, okay. So there was several years ago, I was in college in America studying the great books of Western civilization. And there was a short period of years where I went through a lot of struggles. And the defining characteristic of those struggles is that almost every core important relationship in my life was challenged or seriously ruptured. So I had very severe heartbreak with a person that I was very in love with. I lost my sobriety to prescription amphetamines that I was prescribed by a doctor, seriously affected my health. I was expelled from my college, from this total misunderstanding and betrayal of a friend. And so I had lost, a relationship with my lover. I had lost my relationship in a healthy way with my own body and with my sense of self. And I had lost my direct ties to my community of friends. And if that wasn't, really enough, in a matter of months, my parents started to break up, and my own best friend's father, who is like my own second father, passed away suddenly, very tragically. So from family to friends to myself to my romantic partner, all of those relationships started to fall away. And I took it upon myself when I realized that I wasn't living the kind of life that I wanted, that it was time to change. And so I dove into practices of breath work and yoga and qigong, and especially the Taoist qigong very much helped me to rebalance my emotions, to help me to become centered in my sense of self again, to help heal my relationship with my own sexuality. And so in a matter of a few months, I went from very unhappy and very isolated and lonely to rediscovering a sense of my own power again, and to really recreating my life from the ground up. And it was, in a very short period of time after coming back to school and finishing that, I submitted myself to learning more about these practices that really helped to change my life for forever. And as I dove into the practices more, from Taoist inner alchemy to neo-tantric yoga, the qigong of sexual vitality, to Andean shamanism and other, psycho-spiritual modalities, it wasn't very long before I ended up meeting the love of my life, who I've been with ever since. And so that complete turnaround really helped me discover what my passion in my life is as a teacher, a healer, and an artist, is to help other people rediscover what they need to do to recreate their own lives in ways that really feel fulfilling, where they can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that they have the kind of love that they want, that they love themselves, that they have a partner that they love, that they have a family that they love, that they have a community that they love. Because, we live in a very egocentric culture, whether you're in America or China, or it doesn't really matter. People prize money and material possessions at the expense sometimes of emotional depth and real fulfilling relationships with the other people in their life. And you can have a million or $1 billion, but if you don't have love in your life, then you feel like the poorest person in the world, no matter how much money you make or how many things you have. So that's why I do what I do, because it's what actually matters. Thank you for holding this space so that I can say these things.
Great. Thank you for sharing. So
Yeah.
next question is that I know that you have a lot of method to help people, and in this regard, but can you explain to us, is a healthy relationship, okay? Especially for couple, and also what things you can, really, what kind of people can come to you and for your expertise, and so that get help.
Yeah.
Because in this field, nobody talk about it. Nobody, feel like they can honestly to share with other people. Even I mean, it's even difficult for people to ask for help in that area, right? Some people may not knowing that's the area that's problematic there, So I think it's very important for people to understand. Healthy relationship, what is the way that they can improve and to what extent?
Absolutely. So the question is, what is a healthy relationship, and who are the kind of people that come to me, and how can they make their relationships better? Okay. I just wanted to let you know, Baiming, that I can see your screen on my screen, the one, like your the Global Chinese Health. I'm not sure if you intend to screen share, but I just wanted to let you know that I can see that. But I'll go ahead and answer your question. So what is a healthy relationship? I think that a healthy relationship is one where people can feel like they can totally be themselves with another person. And of course, that requires knowing who you are, knowing what, someone's purpose is. So people toss around the word soulmate sometimes, and basically the idea being that there is a kind of a perfect person for us, where we find them and it's like a fairy tale ending, right? I don't really believe that there is a perfect relationship, in the sense that, people never have disagreements, that I don't think those kinds of relationships exist. But I do think that we can call a soulmate relationship when two people can actually complement each other in their life path. So if they value the same things, if they live by the same principles, then they could have totally different religions, even if they really believe in the same core life principles. If they value kindness and compassion and generosity to other people, then we can find these ways of truly being rooted in a sense of purpose in our relationships. And in that way, relationships become these engines of personal growth, where a couple keeps each other accountable for what they really care about. And in that way, integrity, we can have integrity in our relationships, and do what we say, and say what we mean, and not feel like we have to lie to each other. So I think that's a really important defining characteristic of like what a very powerful, conscious, loving relationship is. And you can tell that you're in one because it's not a struggle to communicate with each other, where you can really take what I call emotional responsibility. And someone can say, without feeling like they have to tiptoe around the other person, they have to walk on eggshells, so to speak. If you feel like you're frustrated or you're angry, that you can actually communicate that without just repressing it and having it blow up at some point. So communication is a huge aspect of conscious relationships. Having a shared purpose is a huge aspect of the best kind of conscious, loving relationships. The piece around sexuality is also important, where everything else can be clicking along. You can feel taken care of and nurtured by each other, both in the physical things that you need, just like food and sleep, and like all of those lifestyle things, and maybe you can even communicate with each other well, which is something a lot of people struggle with. But if there isn't the totally fulfilling physical intimacy that can be there, that can be wildly fulfilling, and very much like a powerful medicine for people to experience like the depths of their own soul, and to unleash their own innate creative potential to do deep healing within themselves, and being at home inside of their bodies, and to fall in deeper in love with the world. All of that is possible with a very conscious, fulfilling sexual union and sexual relationship with oneself and with another person. But without that, it can cause a lot of problems. I think that people can go to relationship therapy for years, and if they don't address the sexual aspect, then they're just going to spin their wheels. And it's more important for some people than others. But I think that we live in a culture where we carry a lot of shame around sexuality. There's a lot of abuse that happens sexually and otherwise. And we can carry that around emotionally and in our bodies. And without finding ways of releasing that and freeing ourselves in our sexual expression and our creative expression as well, because sexual energy is a creative energy, then we will ultimately be living shadows of the lives that we could, is my personal belief. And what I see over and over again with my clients is when they come back into a very fulfilling sexual relationship with themselves and with their partners, that every aspect of their life starts to radically improve. So I think that's really important, and those are some of the really crucial qualities, I think, of a really, really powerful relationship. And that's not to say complicating it with family and like children. If two people can, or even one person if they are a single parent, if those people can have a balanced emotional state of being, if they can be able to communicate and take emotional responsibility, if they can be fully tapped into the fullness of their creative sexual energy, then working together becomes very easy, and creating a thriving family unit becomes all the more easy as well. So with that being said, the kind of people who have come to me to do this kind of work in the past have been single men and women who maybe they have had the history of not having the kind of relationships that like are really fulfilling to them. Sometimes, people have had relationships their entire lives, maybe with people who are narcissists, or have not really fully seen them for who they are, not really been able to meet them and treat them like a person, quite frankly, and actually like take care of each other. Then what I focus with them on is breaking down those patterns, understanding why they've attracted those partners in the past, and repatterning their lives such that they can attract the kind of partner that they really want. So that's the first kind of person, is the single person who wants to attract the love of their life. And, most people don't really even think about what kind of person that they want. If somebody has, for example, been lonely for years or not had fulfilling relationships for years, then sometimes they just settle for whoever shows up. And they don't really think about what kind of life that they're building and who the kind of person is that can really complement that. There are two questions, right? Like, where am I going? And who's going to come with me? And that's the order that we have to answer those questions in. It can't be who's going to come with me and then where are we going? Because then ultimately we're going to be sacrificing some aspect of our destiny. So it's very powerful when people decide like what they want to do with their life, or what their real sense of purpose is, what they feel really alive doing, or in what way they feel most alive being, and then finding the person who complements that. So I guide my clients through that kind of system that's been proven time and time again to work. There's a woman, Lisa, who I was working with last year, who came through a 20-year marriage. She had a really nasty divorce. Her husband embarrassed her in front of her whole community. He was trying to turn her daughter against her, and working with her for about 6 months, I helped her understand, like all of the reasons why she attracted her husband, helped her like sever all of the ties, really believe in the possibility of love. And she didn't find her soulmate while we were working together, but actually after, I think it was like 2 or 3 months after we stopped working together, she called me and she was like, you won't believe it. Like, I think I found him. And they've actually been together ever since. They're moving in together. She just can't even fathom like how lucky she feels, to finally meet this person who actually is able to meet her on every level. So that's the first kind of person, the single man or woman who wants to attract the best kind of partner. The second is a couple. I've worked with couples, and generally they are couples who either already feel like they have a good relationship and they want to go to that next level. So that's the first kind of couple. There's also another sort of archetype where they are having some issues. Maybe they've been together for a little while and something's not working for them, and they need the help of a third party to help them see their blind spot and like what they can do to help them to reignite their passion. So for example, recently I had a couple, actually young couple, like very healthy people, yoga practitioners. They're in their late 20s. They had been together for 2 years. And for whatever reason, in the last like 5 to 6 months of their partnership, and these are people who love each other, they're thinking about like living together forever and having children, very committed to their shared purpose. They had already figured that out, that they like have a shared purpose. They want to build a life together. but for some reason, they weren't clicking sexually in the way that they really wanted to. And just working with them for a very short period of time, it was like 6 to 8 weeks, feeling into, what the patterns were that were manifesting, why they weren't able to, connect in the right way. And this made, the smallest adjustments to their relationship. And in a very short period of time, they just found themselves feeling so free. And they just felt all of their passion reignited. And it was like their sex life changed like that overnight. Because it was kind of intense, the breakthroughs that they were having. But after that intensity, it was like, oh, wow, like we don't know what happened, but, everything's different now. So, so there's that, and that's a good example, those two, because they had a lot going for them. It's not like they had, they knew how to communicate everything, but there was that one piece where it was like they wanted to go to the next level. They were kind of a middle ground between the two types of people I work with, because they had some stuff figured out, but there was just a piece of it that wasn't quite working the way they wanted. So now they're feeling really good. So single people who want to manifest their ideal partner, couples who want to really take their relationship to the next level, or move through some challenges that they're having, either sexually or with communication. And specifically with men, I have developed some really fantastic methods for helping men to overcome sexual dysfunction issues, like premature ejaculation when they're not able to last as long as they want in sex with their partners, erectile dysfunction where they're not able to achieve an erection, and a whole host of other issues. I had a client that I worked with earlier this year, actually, who he had erectile dysfunction for about 15 years. He was like in his early 40s, so he was just very done with it, and had tried everything. And so working with him for I think it was like 3 or 4 months, I showed him the kind of techniques to really understand not just his physical body, but his energetic body. The Taoists, for example, like I mentioned earlier, were a huge influence on me. And so applying some of those techniques, people are able to get the sense of the energy in their own bodies. So in that period of time, he was able to let go of a relationship that didn't serve him. He was able to develop a felt sense of his own energy in his body, and then move that energy throughout his body, activating within himself a really potent sense of his own life force. And so he was able to gain a lot of his own vitality and sexual vitality back. And we haven't worked together since he had those improvements. But I would say that, the next time that he's in a relationship, that it's going to be a totally different story, because he's going to be able to connect with that next person on a much deeper level, without all of the insecurities that he had plaguing him for a good decade and a half. And with women, I especially love to work with women, essentially releasing a lot of the trauma that they've had. We throw around words like patriarchy, for instance, and all of the ways that women have been oppressed in our modern cultures. And one of the ways that happens far, far, far too often, even once is too often, but there's a lot of sexual abuse that happens. And while I don't think that coaching, the kind of work that I do, is a replacement for work with a licensed therapist, it's certainly complementary. And I'm able to do things, that a therapist couldn't touch, truthfully. And so certain modalities that I carry from the Taoist tradition to what I do with Tantra, able to help women to really get back in touch with their own bodies and where they are holding on to trauma in their bodies, in their emotions, and to release that trauma. And what happens when we release the trauma is that we reclaim a certain aspect of ourselves again. Neurologically, when we have trauma or post-traumatic stress, there are regions of our brain that are sequestered off, like quarantined, because they lock away those traumas so that we don't have to deal with them anymore. And we deal with them kind of indirectly. But when we're able to move through and like release those traumas, we regain access to different parts of ourself, different parts of our neurology, and also our creativity, our vitality, our full spectrum of emotional experience. And unfortunately, there are not many containers for women to be able to do that. And so when I work with couples as well, for instance, there might be the man and the woman, or both of the people in the couple might have trauma themselves in different ways. So I actually teach them how to transform their relationship into a vehicle of self-growth, into a vehicle of healing, so that they can embody sets of tools that help them to heal each other through the strength and power of their shared love. Yeah, I think I got everything.
Yes, yes, it's so beautifully presented. I didn't realize this is so connected with a lot of things. It's not just physically, right? The mentalities, emotionally, and spiritually, all come
Yes.
together. This is so great. So,
Mm-hmm.
in this process, do you recommend? I mean, associate healthy lifestyles. They need to pay attention what they eat, and maybe also pay attention to what they exercise. Is that is nothing to do with that? Or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could definitely have coaching programs based solely on lifestyle and nutrition and things like that. And I make sure to understand for my clients and guide them to understand on a very general level
Mhm.
what are the sources of energy that they have in their lives, and what are the drains of energy that they have in their lives. And so those sources or those drains, they could be people, they could
Mhm.
be places, they could be thoughts, they could be habits. For instance, if somebody feels awful every time they go to the mall, they know that the mall is a drain of energy for whatever reason. They don't have to understand why. They just have to understand what their relationship to these things are. Or if they know that, wow, when I prepare the food that I eat at work, rather than buying out and getting fast food, then I feel so much better. I feel so much more like myself. Then I don't like tell them, all right, now you can never eat fast food again and you have to do, pre-prepared meals. I don't take it that far. But what I do is I help them to understand for themselves what are the sources of energy in their lives, what are the drains, so that when they make one decision or the other, it's a more conscious, self-aware decision. And, in that way, if somebody's really committed to their own growth, which if they're paying me money to work with them, they're investing in it, they have momentum in that direction. So then they can understand, okay, if I do this, I'm building myself up. If I'm doing this, I'm self-sabotaging. And self-sabotaging is not helping me to achieve my goals. And so with relationships, right, we learn that we can only attract the best kind of love if we really love ourselves. And so if we are, really, really loving ourselves, we're going to want to eat better. we're going to want to give ourselves our exercise. We're going to want to meditate or take a walk in the park or whatever it is that brings us a sense of contentedness and inner peace. Because, you know, the love starts with ourselves. It starts internally. You know, we can't expect, oh, I'm going to find this person and then they're going to make all of my life better. It's like we have to make our lives better first, and then the other people come, and that's always how it happens. You know, 10 times out of 10, it starts with us.
Yeah, this is
Also,
so
yeah,
so important.
mm-hmm,
So
yeah,
important. As
yeah, right,
I can tell, a lot of people just expect something else, you know, rather than ourselves. So loving
mm-hmm,
ourselves the key
right,
to have
mm-hmm,
a very healthy relationship.
mm-hmm. And biohacking always helps.
Oh yeah, yes. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel like I had a very good college level course for understanding the subject. It's so comprehensive. It's I'm just so impressed with you, all the work that you put onto it, and then help people to improve the area that they might not have consciousness about. You know what's going on, and any way they can improve.
Yes,
Wow.
that's
I
right.
just I just want to say thank you so much, Daniel, for this area that for a lot of people is missing. You know, for myself is a you know, I'm glad to make it, you know, catch up with this kind of technology process. And I think everybody else after the meetings they can listen to it and they can learn a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. And you want to have how other people can contact you?
Right, right. So I actually don't have an active website right now because we're creating a new one, me and my team. But if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Daniel Wilson Jr. And actually, if you post this or wherever you post it, maybe you can post a link to my profile. People can feel free to send me a friend request. You know, message me directly there. I also have my phone number, you know, like readily available, and my email. So whatever way you feel comfortable reaching out to me, just reach out to me. I really try and develop very like strong personal relationships with my clients, you know, because this is such intimate personal work. So, you know, I implore you, you know, if this speaks to you, if you feel like you're ready to make some changes in your life, you're ready to call in that ideal partner, that soulmate, if you're ready to reclaim your relationship to yourself, if you're in a partnership and, you know, you want something more for that partnership, just reach out to me. We'll share a conversation. It's really that easy. And then we can figure out what we need to do. It's
Wonderful.
really that
Daniel,
simple.
the other thing is that this field is very new to a lot of people. So
Mm-hmm.
as a professional, and is that something you get some, what kind of credentials that you as a profession for this one? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us
Right.
about license in what field or training?
Yes. Yes. So I do not have a license. There is no licensure for what we call transformational coaching.
Mm.
Um, but I have a bachelor's degree in the liberal arts. I spent all of my college years in discussion-based classes talking about mathematics, science, all different strains of philosophy, asking people questions, diving into deep truth, having hours and hours and hours and hours and hours worth of dialogue. So I'm very good at asking questions that gets to the essence of what is true and what matters. After I graduated from school, and that was already years after I had been doing my own inner work and meditation and yoga and qigong, I am certified by Taoist Grandmaster Mantak Chia to teach the his Taoist inner alchemy system, the universal healing Tao. I am certified as a neo-tantric educator by Charles Muir in the Source School of Tantra Yoga. I am a certified shamanic practitioner by the Shamanic Healing Institute, and Paul Seibert, who's my teacher, who has 30 years of experience in the lineage of medicine people in the Andes Mountains. I am a breath worker through the Inspiration School of Consciousness, and Jessica Dibb, who has 37 years of experience as a teacher of consciousness and meditation. And I'm always learning more. I am, I'll never stop learning. And that's really the beautiful thing, you know, is I'm always refining what I'm doing to really deliver the best to people, and streamline their results. That's the real virtue of this work, is that we're not going to beat around the bush. You know, we're going to dive right into what matters. What is it that we want, and what's in the way, and moving through what's in the way so that we can get what we want. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. So I'm pretty sure that, you know, this is an important area. We'll someday will pay, you know, get people's attention and become a real, you know, I mean, the true big field to help people better their lives. All right.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Daniel.